Hello everyone and welcome back to what could be the absolutely best game that was played yesterday and maybe even in the tournament so far. It's young Krzysztof Duda versus Daniil Dubov, and someone sent me an email I think two weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, that Daniil's middle name is Dmitrievich, so making him Daniil Dmitrievich Dubov, making him also a triple D. So they suggested that maybe we should refer to him with the nickname of Triple D. So I don't know, what do you guys think about that? Is it a good idea? Should we just stick to Dubov? I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's open for suggestions. Now that being said, crazy game. Features 5 queens, as you might have imagined, and also features an improvement on a game that is 96 years old, played by none other than the great Alexander Alechin. So without further ado, let's check it out. So Duda with the white pieces opens with d4. We have knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to f3, and d5. So a normal Queen's Gambit Declined. We have knight to c3 and c6. We have e3, preparing to develop the light square bishop, and here knight b to d7. Black, of course, always waits for white to develop the light square bishop before capturing on c4. So bishop to d3, and only now Dubov captures. D captures on c4, bishop captures, and b5. So this is, I think, the oldest possible way to play this line. Even I have read about this some 20 years ago. Bishop back to d3 and bishop to b7 Now black solves the problem of developing the light square bishop. You're going to get the rook into the game, push c5, and then your light square bishop becomes a strong piece. So here, castles by Duda, and now a6, defending that b5 pawn once again, as you do want to play c5. So e4, grabbing more space in the center, and now, without hesitation, c5. So now the light square bishop comes alive, and you are putting pressure on the center here. And here, mostly played today is d5, but e5 is also playable. Just, I guess, at the absolute top level that the engines play at, I guess d5 is a bit more precise. But for a rapid game between two humans, e5 works just as well. So e5, and now knight to d5. And this is actually a very tricky line, because if Dubov accepts this and goes for c captures on d4, then we go into this: knight captures on b5, bishop captures on f3, attacking the queen, queen captures, and now knight to d5. The knight still being under attack. Knight to d6 with check, captures, and now just a knight to e5, attacking the queen, the bishop, and you will recollect the pawn. So just everything gets traded off. For example, queen e4, captures, and now queen captures on d6. And if queen captures on d4, just castles, and it's a equalish game. White has a bishop, black has a knight, but white does have 2 against 1 on the queen side, so it's hard to say. But both of them, I think, know this and agree that this is not worth playing. So knight to d5, and now knight to g5, putting some pressure on black's king side here. Knight captures on c3, b captures, and here we reach the position that Alexander Alechin had against Grigoriev in his 1925 simultaneous exhibition in Geneva, and even the great attacker Alechin himself played knight back to e4 here. Interestingly, this is the after bishop to e7. After bishop to e7, Alechin played knight to e4 here, which is the strongest move recommended by the engine. So even Alechin knew that. But Duda doesn't go for the retreat with knight to e4, but rather goes for knight captures on e6. And this is a new move in the position. So already we have a completely new game already as of move 14. And I find it amazing that Alechin did not go for knight captures on e6, because even Alechin knew that this isn't good, but Duda decides to try it out against Dubov. So let's see what happens here. Knight captures on e6, you have to capture this, otherwise you're just dead lost. So f captures on e6, and now queen to h5 with check. And now Duda was probably expecting Dubov to play king to f8, because it is the reasonable thing to do, and you do not allow white to sacrifice the bishop here on g6. So here, if king to f8 was played, then of course we play f4, f5, we want to open up the f file, attack the king here, and if king g8, still f5. And now we get this position, which Duda most likely had analyzed at home and prepared for this, and Duda would have to struggle over the board and waste time, as this is a rapid game. But just in case you're interested, you can defend sort of against this, but you have to play knight captures on e5. Now, as the bishop here is undefended, d captures, queen captures on d3, and now even f6. So it seems like black is getting overrun, but here comes queen to d5, or queen e4, doesn't really matter, going after checkmate here. Then white defends checkmate with queen g5 and threatens checkmate, and then we just trade everything off. Queen captures, we have queen captures, bishop captures, attacks the rook, king captures, and now g captures on f6. We have e captures on f6, attacking the bishop here, bishop to d6, and now I guess you could even push f7 with check, king g7, and bishop to g5, going after this check, winning the rook here, and after the rook moves, rook h to f8, now rook 8 to d1. And basically we get this position where white is more active. He has a beautiful pass pawn here, but black is up a pawn. So it's a sort of a trade-off. White should be better because, you know, activity above all, but I don't know. So of course this is only one line that's really forcing, and well, it plays out like this, but there are of course many more. The Duda knows, and Dubov, I guess reluctant to try them out, goes g6 instead. So he's gonna try out his luck here. So g6, bishop captures, this is an insta capture, h captures, and now not going for the rook, of course. If you capture the rook, then knight f8, and already black is doing great. The knight is defended, the g-pawn is defended, you're going to play queen d5, threaten checkmate, you're going to castle queenside, everything is going in your favor. So instead, Duda grabs the g-pawn, queen captures on g6, and now king to f8. And now you can see that there are some very thematic ideas here. Like after the bishop moves, the rook can come into the game, and it's gonna be very hard for the black king to defend this. So first, of course, the bishop comes into the game with check. Now black has no moves. Black has to give up the rook. Rook captures, queen captures, and now king to g8. And now queen to g6 with check. Now going to the f-file is not a good idea because f4, f5 just opens up the f-file. So king h8, and now comes queen to h6 check once again. We have king to g8, and now we want to pick up the e6 pawn with check. So only now queen captures on e6, and now king to g7, not allowing any further queen to h6 checks, because then you really have to worry about stuff like this. And here you could try a lot of things, but as Duda is expecting knight f8, that the queen will be under attack, he doesn't go for any checks right away. He first brings the rook into the game. Rook 8 to d1, and now he always has this option of going for the rook lift, but also he has the option of rook e1 and then just pushing those central pawns. So this is just a disgustingly difficult position to defend for black. So knight to f8 by Dubov, and now as the queen is under attack, queen to g4 check, king to h8, and now d5. And look at these two monstrosities in the center of the board. Whoa, not there. So knight to h7, now blocking any checks, and now d6. And here maybe a slight improvement for white, rook f to e1, as this way you open up the bishop's diagonal and you don't have to rush it. You want to play rook e1, put both rooks behind the pass pawns, and maybe then push. But it's a rapid game. They are both very low on time, so they have to make these moves on the go. So d6 attacking the bishop, and now bishop to h4. We have e6. Now those two pawns are incredibly strong. Queen to f6, not allowing it to lock the queen out of the game with e7. Then you also lose the bishop. So queen to f6, and now e7. We have bishop to c6. The bishop now tries to help out with those pass pawns, and now g3, pushing back the dark square bishop. And now the thing is, you cannot go back. If bishop g5, just f4, and that's it. Bishop to h6, you're just going to play rook f to e1, and there is no defending this. You're just going to get overrun. And of course, rook to g8 always runs into queen captures on g8, so you don't even have to worry about that. King captures d7, and that's just it. That's quite the position here. So after g3, we have the instant rook to g8 by Dubov, attacking Duda's queen, and now queen to h5. Of course, for those of you who are maybe new to chess, you cannot capture the bishop because after queen captures, the g-pawn is pinned, so you're just going to lose the queen. So the queen has to move, queen h5, and now we have queen captures on c3. Dubov calmly grabs a pawn, and he says, okay, if you don't win now, then I'm going to start pushing my pass pawns. And here, again, what do you play here? Interestingly, you cannot go for the bishop, and this is what Dubov found. If you capture the bishop, then just queen f3 and you're getting checkmated. There's no stopping this. So here Duda finds the brilliant rook to d5. He cuts off the light square bishop, and now what do you play here? Again, the time is ticking and Dubov has to react to this really quickly, and he plays bishop captures on d5, but there was also the very interesting bishop to g5. However, that runs into rook captures on g5, and you just want to get the defenders off the back rank. Rook captures on g5. Now you bring the queen into the game with check, and after bishop captures, you're going to play queen captures with check, rook to g8, and the d7. And now, you know, who can make what's what here? After queen to d4, you are probably defending, but it's a very, very ugly position to face. So while this was in the position, Dubov decided to grab the rook, bishop captures on d5, which is not a problem. Queen captures on d5, and now comes knight to f6 by Dubov. Here, the absolute best was bishop captures on e7. You just have to give up some material to weaken those passed pawns and then go after the pawn. And now the thing is, after queen to f7, going after the rook, now you have knight f6, defending the rook. The knight is defended here. Also, rook to e1 is impossible. And next, a queen to e5 followed by queen captures on e7 is coming. So this is absolutely best for Dubov. However, Dubov played knight to f6 with an attack on the queen, saying, you know, better to get this movie in before I decide on anything else. But now, feel free to pause the video and try to find the winning idea for Duda while I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting the nice queen sacrifice. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's queen captures on g8, just simply removing the defender of the back rank. We have knight captures on g8, and now comes e8 with queen. It wouldn't help if you captured with the king, because the d pawn is also coming up the board. So bishop to f6, and now queen to h5 with check. You could also just play d7, but first Duda wants to throw in some checks. Queen to h5 check, king g7, and now rook to d1, now preparing to advance the pawn. Knight to h6 by Dubov, and now d7. We have knight to f7, now both the bishop and the knight are guarding the queening square, and now queen to g4 with check. King f8, and now queen to e6. And here Dubov says, all right, there's not much to be done here, let's just start pushing those passed pawns. So c4, and now comes rook to d5, and that's a very nice rook lift. If you go for this check, it doesn't really do anything. King here, and the squares are still defended, and you can't just trade everything off, give up the rook for two pieces, because Dubov also has passed pawns here. So instead, after c4, we have rook to d5, an excellent rook lift, going for rook to f5. b4, Dubov continues pushing his passed pawns, and now rook to f5. Now with a double attack on the bishop, so Dubov defends it, king to g7, and now king to g2. But now Dubov also continues pushing his passed pawns, so b3, a captures, c captures, and now for the final time, pause the video and win the game for Duda while I give you a couple of seconds. This is not an easy one. So for those of you who were able to do it, you are a true master of the game, because this move is incredibly hard to find. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's actually rook to f4. And this is just awesome stuff. Now rook to g4 is coming, and there's not much for black to do here. Just to give you an example, if black continues pushing the pawn, then first we bring a queen into the game, d8 queen. This is crucial. Have to remove one of the defenders from the king. Knight captures on d8, and only now rook to g4 with check. King h6, and now queen to f5, threatening checkmate. So what do you play here? Only one way to defend, and that's queen to c6 check. King has to move, or playing f3, and now move the bishop. So now the queen is guarding the mating square, but now queen to f4 check, king to h7, and queen to e5. Again, going for checkmate here. And finally, after you block this with something, let's say if you try queen to f6, it doesn't really work, because just queen h5 check, and again you get checkmated. Queen h6, queen to f5 check, king to h8, queen to e5 check. Now king h7, you're gonna capture on e7 with check, king h8, queen captures, so total annihilation. King h7 and queen to g8 is now checkmate. And another thing, if after queen to e5 you don't block with queen to f6, you could try something like queen to c2 check, but it's insufficient. King h3, you're going to play queen to g6 now, try and offer your queen for some counterplay, as you also hope to queen your pawn, but just queen captures on e7 check first. Knight f7, now you capture, rook captures, king captures, and now the queen very easily collects the pawn. Just queen e6 check, king g7, and queen to b6, and that pawn is going nowhere. So rook to f4, incredible move. Duda misses it. Unfortunately, he goes for the pawn grab. Queen captures on a6, but now Dubov gets another pawn move in, and that's b2. And now this pawn is much closer to queening, and all of the lines that we've shown no longer work. So queen to b6, guarding the queening square, and now bishop to d8, trying to force the queen away from the b file, so Dubov can queen the pawn. But now Duda goes for rook captures on f7. This comes with check, king captures, and queen captures on d8 now, so eliminating both of them, but allowing Dubov to bring the queen into the game. But this loses. If Dubov brings the queen into the game, we have this queen to e8 check, and after king g7, just d8 queen, and that's it. Black is getting checkmated, because at the end of the day, white is up 3 pawns, so even if the queens get traded off, white just wins a king and pawn endgame. Queen b7 check, you have one more check to deliver, but just king h3, and now there are no more useful checks. Black is just done for. So instead, after this queen d8 move, we have queen to c6 with check, and now comes f3, just defending here, and now only now b1 with queen. Here was Dubov's final moment where he could have saved the game with queen to c2 check, but it's so tricky to find. I'm just going to show it because I know you guys enjoy it. Point is that after king h3, you have queen f5 check, and now white has to repeat this. Check, 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 king h3, queen f5 check, because if you try and win this and go up the board, let's say king h4, then queen to h7 check, king to g4, and now queen to g6 check. Now the problem is after king h3, you have queen to e6 check, and now you guard this square. That's the point. After anything, the king moves or g4, now you bring a queen into the game, and the white doesn't have this check. White has no useful checks, and you will not be queening your pawn. So this is the idea, and this was Dubov's last hope. But here Dubov brought a queen into the game, but now it's Duda's turn to start checking. So queen to e8 check, king to g7, now queen e5 check, king to h7, and now queen to h5 check. Dubov wants to set up everything perfectly, so it will be easier for his queen to defend the king, even though queening right away was also possible, but with little time on the clock, you want to make sure that Dubov doesn't have some sort of a tricky perpetual. So king g7, queen to g4 check, king to h6, and now queen to f4 check, king h5, g4 with check, king to g6, and only now that you've freed up the g3 square for the king a little bit, now you bring a queen into the game, and here we have 4 queens on the board, and with the 1 queen that was already sacrificed, that's 5 queens. So here queen c to c2 with check, and now queen d to d2. Here was there was a possibility here. If Duda went king to h3, then Dubov still wins after queen to f1 check. It's very nice, so we're going to show it king to h4, queen f to f2 now with check, king h3, now queen g2 check, king h4, and only now we capture, and after captures and captures, this is checkmate as the king covers these 2 squares. So after this, queen c to c2 with check, Duda just played queen d to d2, and it was in this position that Daniil Dubov resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. You cannot trade queens, because then it's just a queen's endgame with white being up 3 pawns. That's completely winning. And if you try to avoid the trade, maybe go for some queen g1 action, you're very quickly losing this. For example, queen h6 check, king f7, you're gonna go queen to d7 check, and that's just it. If you go up the board, you're getting checkmated, so you have to play something like this. But now even this, queen to e6 check, the queen cannot capture due to the pin, king f8, and now queen d captures, and we have a beautiful checkmate here with the 2 queens. So a nice chess threesome, as we call it on this channel. So yeah, really wild stuff. Definitely the best game of yesterday, but I do think it's also the absolute best game of the entire tournament so far. The tournament is still going on, so we'll see what happens, but way to go. That's the kind of chess that we enjoy seeing, so congratulations to both of them for playing such a wonderful game. And also here are the standings after 3 rounds. So the guys on the left are the ones who go further into the tournament, and the people on the right unfortunately drop out. It's also from Chess24, as you can see there. So Magnus Carlsen winning the tournament with 9.5 points with Anish Giri, Wesley So, Levon Aronian, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, Yang Krzysztof Duda, Temur Rajabov, and Daniil Dubov. Those are the top 8 that are continuing the tournament. And leaving the tournament are Hikaru Nakamura, Sam Shankland, Yanni Pomnishi, Vidit Gujarati, Linier Dominguez, Alexander Grishuk, Matthias Blubam, and Ding Liren. Who for some reason lost pretty much all of the games. I have no idea what's up with that, and how is Ding not just annihilating everyone. But ever since this whole situation in the world started, Ding started playing poorly in the candidates, in here and everywhere. And yeah, I don't know if you can hear that. My neighbors are doing some redecorating, so there's a lot of drilling, but luckily we have reached the end of our video. So yeah. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank a mystery person, Julian Moik, Herald Floor, and another mystery person for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of this nice tournament, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.